My name is Victor Fuhrman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. Was Mary, the Virgin Holy Mother of Jesus, much more than the image portrayed of her in biblical canon? Returning to Destination Unlimited this week, Marguerite Rigoglioso says that Mary was not just a docile maiden chosen by God to be the mother of Jesus, but a great spiritual master in her own right. She shares that Mary was a sought-after healer and holy priestess who continued her mission long after Jesus' resurrection. Marguerite is the world's foremost authority on the history of virgin birth and has taught graduate and undergraduate courses in the United States and United Kingdom. The founding director of Seven Sisters Mystery School, she's the author of several books, including The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. Her website is sevensistersmysteryschool.com, and she joins me this week to share her groundbreaking new book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. Please join me in welcoming back to Destination Unlimited, Marguerite Rigoglioso. Welcome, Marguerite.
Thank you, Victor. It's wonderful to be here again with you and your wonderful voice.
Thank you so much. Please share with our listeners who are meeting you for the first time your path that led to both your scholarly and spiritual work that you do.
Oh, my goodness. Well, so I'm presently the director of Seven Sisters Mystery School and also an author, now a 4-time author. And I know we're going to be talking about my recent book, just published this week as of this recording, The Secret Life of Mother Mary. And so, I've been at this work with the sacred feminine for, my goodness, what would it be now? 30 years. Right? 30 plus years, maybe 40. It's interesting because I do talk about what started me on this path in this book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, as a matter of fact. And I always approach this question a little bit differently depending on my mood of the day. So just to keep it brief, I think that coming into this life, I always had a mystical curiosity, a mystical bent. And what I was learning in traditional religion and school just kind of wasn't doing it for me. And so I geared my elective studies, once I got to the grad school level, on what was intriguing me, which was things that I had been reading about and discovering about ancient goddesses, ancient priestesses, and so forth. So I did go to the California Institute of Integral Studies, got a master's and PhD in philosophy and religion and humanities, essentially in women's spirituality. And that started me on my work of teaching and writing professionally about the sacred feminine, women's hidden histories. And so that's on the professional level. On the personal level, I, like many people, have had various crises and traumas in my life that really were also spurs to cracking me open to the understanding that there's more than just what's going on in 3 dimensions. And I've just continued to follow my curiosity, my intuition, and do what excites me.
This work is a passion for you, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is.
What drives that passion?
I think it's partly an intense curiosity about the cosmos and partly a mission-driven desire for service of others. I remember when I was a young teenager and when I was thinking, well, what do I want to do with my life or when I grow up? The next sentence was always to help people, right? So that was in me. I came into this lifetime with that service orientation. And so service plus curiosity leads to a passionate life of exploration in the spiritual realms.
And of course, this is also about empowering women.
Very much so. And men as well. Although my focus has been with women because I think that's where a lot of the great restoration has to take place. But yes, my books and teachings and other writings over decades have really focused on empowering women to connect with and reclaim their sacred powers, their mystical powers, their oracle powers, and really, Victor, to exonerate the goddess herself writ large, to bring her back into public consciousness. I mean, she's never gone anywhere, but our understanding of her has certainly gotten cut off. And so it's, a lot of my work has been all about that, because I really do feel that the restoration of women's powers, women's understandings, women's tendencies is at the heart of what needs to happen to correct a world that has severely gone out of balance, as we continue to see with, take a couple of minutes just looking at mainstream media, and it's just even more insane than it was 10 and 20 years ago. So it's the touch of the sacred feminine that's needed again, and in coordination with the masculine and with men.
Now, the last time you were on was in 2021, and we discussed your book, The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. Your brand new book, just published, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. You actually bring up some fascinating new information about who Mother Mary actually was when she walked the earth and what she did. You say Mary was a teacher to her community, including to Jesus Christ himself. Tell us more about the active role she took throughout her life and how her work birthed a promising future for our world.
Yes. This is a really critical unveiling at this time, Victor, because the last book that we spoke about was really focusing on Mother Mary as what I call a divine birth priestess. The research that I've done about not only her, but various women across the entire planet indicates that high-level holy women have been able to consciously conceive in what seem to be counter-biological ways in order to bring in high-level holy beings to help humanity. And so I focused on Mary's conception of Jesus. That really was what the whole book was about, showing how this could be possible for a woman to do such a thing, and how Mary specifically was part of a lineage of these women. So now in this new book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, I dive into all the material I put aside when I started writing that other book and realized I have to break this apart because there's just too much to go into one book. And so, as you say, what this book uncovers is Mary's life primarily during Jesus' lifetime and after the crucifixion, and on into her potentially ripe old age when she was in her 80s by some of the accounts. And as I began to research some of the other suppressed gospels, as well as biographies of her that still exist, that are probably based on some of those suppressed gospels, as well as other material that was probably burned, a whole 5-dimensional, 7-dimensional woman pops into view. And she's nothing like the passive vehicle that is portrayed to us in traditional Christianity. The young girl who says, "Let it be done according to thy will," doesn't really know what's going on with her, and then kind of disappears from the face of the earth, certainly the Gospels mainly, after Jesus comes on the scene. But what you come to find out is that she was really the one who was teaching Jesus every step of the way. He and Mother Mary were soulmates in the sense of just having a deep soul connection with one another. And Jesus learned a lot of what he needed from Mother Mary. And she was the leader of a retinue that was around Jesus during his lifetime, which included Mary Magdalene, as well as Mother Mary's sister, another woman who was born after Mother Mary, but in the regular way, because Mother Mary was divinely born as she divinely gave birth to Jesus. And this woman also came to be named Mary. And I talk about the name Mary, the priestess title. They walked along with and supported Jesus during his lifetime and ministry. And then I talk about how Mother Mary basically is the one who was responsible for his resurrection, according to esoteric teachings from India.
You share that
Yes.
Mother Mary had powers. According to your research, she was both a healer and did exorcisms. Please tell us more about this and how you source that information.
Yeah. So, these biographies and these suppressed gospels reveal that after Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, which she accomplished through her womb powers, using specific mantras and yantras and the practice known as parakaya pravesh, which is to bring a dead body back to life, she was the leader of the whole early Christian movement. We might call her the first pope, if you will. Well before Peter. Peter bowed to her. And we find many instances in these gospels and in these biographies about her that, yes, she was able to remove unwanted entities from people. She was able to heal people of leprosy, of all sorts of illnesses, especially at the time of her death passage out of her body, which was a whole special process that wasn't a regular death. She was just a great helper to people. She was also the mentor to all of the people who were part of this Jesus movement, who had elected to be teachers of their material, like Mary Magdalene, like Peter, like all the apostles, and so forth. But there was a large retinue of women as well. And so these are some of the details that I enumerate and elaborate upon in The Secret Life of Mother Mary.
And you also share the relationship of teacher-student and about the deep mutual friendship shared by Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and why their story has been repressed.
Yeah, this is also very important, Victor, because over the last 40 years, as you and maybe some listeners may be aware, there has been a great unveiling of Mary Magdalene as a holy woman, as not a penitent prostitute, but rather a spiritual teacher in her own right, and the most likely romantic partner of Jesus. So she has gone first in this grand uncloaking, this great unveiling. Now it's Mother Mary's time. And as I started looking at this material, of course, I was looking at material with Mary Magdalene side by side, and sometimes they're described in the same sources. And it turns out that Mother Mary was Mary Magdalene's mentor. She was her teacher. And then I put two and two together, and this word never appears in these sources, but it's like, well, if Mary Magdalene indeed had become betrothed with Jesus, then Mother Mary would be what? Her mother-in-law. And so she was on very personal terms with Mary Magdalene. And the Gospel of Philip tells us that the two of them and Mother Mary's sister, another Mary, always walked with Jesus, right? So they're like this little triangle that goes around assisting him. And so I talk about in the book about what is said about the nature of their relationship, and then I extrapolate as well through my own intuition and logical supposition based on everything that I've read. And it really is an extraordinary story, and one that I think is very healing for women today, where there's sometimes with everyone, when we get into groupings and pairings and familial relationships, there's a lot of difficulty and strife that comes up. But these women were high level adepts, and clearly, I would assume they had the ability to get along and be supporting each other in very high level spiritual ways. So that's like a little teaser about how they were both involved together. And they really were also both involved in the womb mysteries, what I call the womb mysteries. Mother Mary in her way and Mary Magdalene in her way. And I go into quite a description of that in the book.
You also discuss Mother Mary's role using advanced physics and yoga in conception and the resurrection of Jesus. Please tell us about this.
Yes, this is very important. And, you know, Victor, I have been studying and working with Mother Mary personally for quite a long time. I didn't go into that particular angle of it when you first asked the question about how I got onto this path. But I went to and I learned something called the Holy Womb Chakra System back in 2017. And I learned this at what's called the Divine Mother Center in Laytonville, California. And they are the United States arm holding the teachings of the late Hindu saint Sri Kaleshwar, who also has his own ashram in Penakonda, India, that is still functioning. And these teachings are what he retrieved from ancient manuscripts written on palm leaves. And it was a series of mantras or, sacred chant prayers, yantras or sacred drawings, and other philosophical concepts, all of which he says were used by Mother Mary, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, among many other great sages over the thousands of years. And it's through this primary training that Mother Mary learned how to cultivate her womb at extraordinarily high levels of power, both for this miraculous conception of Jesus and for teaching him while he was in her womb, and for this resurrection process that she took him through after he was taken from the cross and laid in her lap. So again, this process called parakaya pravesh is what is known as a yogic practice. Like in the West, we think of yoga as downward dog and sun salute and all that sort of thing. No, we're talking about the original sense of yogic practices, which really have to do with developing magical powers, what we would consider magical powers, but powers over the elements of the earth and so forth. She was very highly trained in this. And what Sri Kaleshwar makes clear is that the lifetime in which we know her as Mother Mary was the culmination lifetime of many, many lifetimes that she had had on the planet to perfect herself. So she was, by this point, a very high level adept. And that is what enabled this whole Christed enterprise to happen.
How might an advancement in holy womb power, shared through Sri Kaleshwar's teachings, as you discussed, and as exemplified in Mother Mary's practices, change women's lives and our world today?
Well, I like to think that it's happening because I have been learning these teachings directly from the Divine Mother Center and my teacher, Cindy Lindsay, who studied directly with Sri Kaleshwar. And I and others have been certified to teach this training. And so I've been teaching it to hundreds of women, many of whom, and men, because it's definitely something open to people of all sexes. It is changing lives. It has changed my life. And I talk about in the book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, some of my personal experiences and results with these Holy Womb Chakra teachings. It's a process of working with these mantras and working with these yantras and so forth. And so it led to a great empowerment of me. I mean, there's a long list of what engaging these practices can do for a person, from releasing heartbreak to clearing sexual abuse to re-empowering your womb for magical healing properties and things like that. And ultimately to bringing forth what Sri Kaleshwar called a divine child. because there is a way, a two mantra process that he describes that I talk about in the book as well, that is perhaps not bringing forth, it's not exactly the technology that Mother Mary used to bring forth Jesus, but it's something that every person, every couple can use to bring forth a higher vibrational soul, to call a higher vibrational soul into that woman's womb. And by doing that, we bring higher vibrational people, and that helps heal the planet. So it's through the presence of these divine children. It's through the presence of women and men who are clearing themselves, cleansing themselves of, unwanted miasm, and then going on to be healers and so forth. That's how we are changing the world and being living Marys and living Magdalenes.
And you use the word chakra to describe the holy womb. It's an energy center.
Yes. It is located more or less around where the womb is. However, there's a point under the navel, about 1.5 inches below the navel, that is a floating energy point that Sri Kaleshwar identified as the Nada Bindu point, or the entry point of these womb energies. And so the physical uterus is involved in everything that happens with this cleansing. And also you become aware and start working with this point of energy that's like a fulcrum point or a zero point in the body. And it's in people of all sexes. So that's the exciting, empowering thing. And we don't even have to get into arguments of male, female, that kind of thing. So yes, it's its own chakra that kind of has an overlay. As I see it, really from navel to vulva in a woman, or navel to perineum in the man. And it needs to be recognized, and it needs to be worked with in tandem with the second chakra or any other chakra.
Are you going to create your own form of yoga with this?
What I've been doing, Victor, is I've been following the work of Sri Kaleshwar, and that's plenty enough for me right now in terms of learning these mantras. You go through a whole 101-day process of charging them, meaning repeating them 108 times using whole mala. There's a series of about 8 of them. And then there are some other processes that you do to do some healing with your mother and so forth. And I find that there have been a lot of changes in my life. There have been a lot of changes in the lives of clients that I've worked with and others who have done this work. And I think that what I add onto it are other intuitive processes that I take people through, like through guided meditations on various themes, through other services that I'm offering, other teachings that I'm giving to people, including in my upcoming Mary and Magdalene priestess training, right? So I wouldn't say that I'm creating a yogas necessarily in the formal sense, but in some ways maybe I am, when you really think about it. And I think it's possible for everyone to do so intuitively, like, okay, what do I need to do with my womb today? Right? There are many women working on womb healing and teaching it, and they probably have created their own yogas for people. And it's an endlessly creative process. So it's not like just adhere to this one system that was talked about, but what is your own creative spiritual self telling you about what processes you can use to heal your own womb and that of others?
And it's a healing that our world needs today. My guest, Marguerite Rigoglioso, her new book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. Marguerite, please share with our listeners where they can get your books and find out more about all of the wonderful work that you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. So you can purchase the books anywhere that books are sold, be it directly through the Inner Traditions website, which is my publisher, and through the imprint Bear and Company, Simon and Schuster, Barnes and Noble, Amazon.com, anywhere. And if you do it on Amazon, we'd love to hear your review. Give us a starred review. There are many wonderful reviews already there. And to find out more about my work and how you can benefit from it, go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com, SEVEN, mysterieschool.com. And you will find the various courses that are available online, what's upcoming, the other kinds of events that I do on YouTube, cacao ceremonies, and so forth. And especially, as I said right now, the Mary and Magdalene priestess training, which is helping women to take everything that's in these two books that I've just written and apply them to their own lives in their own creative fashion.
Marguerite, please share with us a little about your personal relationship with Mother Mary.
Yeah, this is an important part of the book as well, because the book is like a triple braid of my personal experience with Mother Mary, the research that I've done about her, and my intuitive take on her, as well as others' intuitive take on her. So I grew up Catholic, and so I was aware of her, but because she wasn't ever portrayed as a very interesting presence, and I steered clear of her, especially because how she was used in Catholicism when I was growing up was to control your sexual behavior and your behavior in general, to just suppress you, essentially. So who wanted that, right? So when Mary Magdalene came on the scene at Easter time, I always thought that was kind of interesting. So when the Mary Magdalene material started coming forth a number of decades ago, I was very, very excited about that. And I started going into these goddess studies and these various programs to explore the goddess experientially. And in one of them, in the Boston area where I was living at the time, when I was in my 30s, it was a women's spirituality program, and one of their modules was all about basically Mother Mary as the goddess of the West and what that was all about. And I was astounded, and it made so much sense to me. And that began my exploration of Mother Mary as a goddess. And I thought, well, this record definitely needs to be set straight. And I didn't know I'd be writing books on it in the future, but I was certainly eager to learn more about Mother Mary. And as I went into graduate school and I started doing these more formal studies, and then I started looking at the reality of divine birth, which of course immediately led me to Mother Mary, but she's not the exclusive one who has done divine birth, but a major figure. I started, and I was on my own spiritual path, my path of personal healing and my own awakening path. And I realized, as I was working with various women and doing teaching, that I could go into this relationship with Mother Mary in a much more personal way. And I did begin to do that. And I had plenty of healing to be done. I talk in the book about what some of that entailed and why. And I just realized more and more that Mother Mary was just there on the other side of the veil for conversation and assistance at any time of day or night. And I have called on her at both. So I was encouraged and influenced by other women I knew who were smart and spiritual, who had relationships with Mother Mary. So I was learning from them as sister teachers. And when the Sri Kaleshwar material came to me, and I realized that Mother Mary was so much a part of these ancient teachings, and it was a living tradition, I went even into a deeper level personally and spiritually. So all of this academic research, exploration, and journey has gone hand in hand with these other kinds of explorations, and that has all just gone deeper. And part of my motivation with the book is to share it with others so that they can understand that should they decide to, cock an ear toward Mother Mary, she's there. She's available. She's available as a personal healer, a personal mother, a spiritual teacher, and an emancipator, somebody who is showing us what are the stages and steps that we need for our what's called ascension, for those of us who are wanting to move into deeper dimensions of consciousness.
You alluded to this earlier. Share with us about the miraculous conception of Mother Mary herself by her mother, Anne.
Yes. So I talk about that extensively in the Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, that book, and I summarize this to some degree in this new book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary. But what we find out, again, from one of the suppressed Gospels, but thank goodness we have that little shard for us. It's called the Infancy Gospel of James. Originally, it was called Birth of Mary. Of course, interesting how the female names get erased from everything. And although it was rejected by the Catholic Church, it was embraced by the Orthodox Christian tradition. And it tells us that Anne was able to divinely conceive Mother Mary at the latter part of her life. And it goes through a whole extensive discussion of this, and then I extrapolate and provide missing links of information about that, given all the research that I had come to that gospel with from my explorations in divine birth. And so Anne, without the assistance of any male, conceived on her own, Mother Mary, when she was in her garden. Right. So all of these things are significant. Every little word and location and so forth has a big meaning to it. And then she raised Mary from infancy under special circumstances, keeping her secluded in her bedroom, which she turned into a shrine, and then having her taught by these special virgin priestesses that were coming from the temple. And then she eventually gave Mother Mary to the temple to be raised there and fulfill her learning and instruction that she needed in order to become what was a divine birth priestess. So it's quite an amazing story, really.
What are the historical meanings of the words Mary and Virgin, and how may we work with these words as mantras for healing and empowerment today?
Yeah, so starting with Mary, I talk about this quite a bit in both of these books, and especially The Secret Life of Mother Mary, how this goes back to a term in ancient Egypt, Mary, which was connected with the goddess Isis. And it meant beloved of, the loving one, and the one who is loved. So it's love, lover, and the one who's loved all rolled into one. That's essentially what the term meant. And so it became adjusted into the different languages, Miriam, Mariam, Maria, and then eventually Mary. So it's really a priestess title is what I've discerned, which is why there are quite a few women named Mary or Miriam in the Christian Bible and so forth. And, going back into the Hebrew Bible as well. I love that because it allows us to understand these women as holy priestesses who held that divine loving capacity. And again, that's what I'm aiming to help women with in this new Mary and Magdalene priestess training, for people to become the Mary and become the Magdalene, which has another series of meanings, by the way. And then the concept of the Virgin is a very important one to rectify, because it is not just what we think about, somebody who is either pre-marriage and has never had sex or never has sex throughout their life. It's a spiritual term, virgin, that in the Greek is parthenos, that really has to do with a sacred woman who has chosen a certain kind of celibacy, either for all of her life or for part of her life, that has to do with her own wholeness or her own sovereignty. So it's not that there's a whole process that goes along with this that's talked about in the Gnostic materials, the bridal chamber, where the person becomes whole. They develop their masculine, feminine in its entirety, which is what allows these women to be able to conceive divinely, because they've become that hermaphrodite. They've become that androgyne. So that's just a little taster of what the word virgin means. I go into that much more extensively in these books, and especially my original book, the cult of divine birth in ancient Greece. That's where I have a really much longer discussion about this term as it appears in various sources. Does that get at what you wanted?
Yes, that's great. That's going to be an introduction to people to learn more, because these are things that we had never heard before your presentation and your work. So thank you.
Okay.
You say that Mary was a stepmother and also had a sister. These are things we never hear about. Please tell us more.
Yeah. So as I alluded earlier, her sister Mary, who came to be named Mary, was born of her mother Anne. But after Anne had accomplished her goal, which was to give birth to the divine feminine avatar, which was Mother Mary. And so after that, she could rest from that great effort. And she did marry someone and gave birth to this other person through the normal means, the regular means. And we find out that, as I mentioned, this girl came to be in the retinue of Mother Mary. She came to be in the retinue of Jesus. So she was named Mary, again, a priestess title, a priestess of divine love and womb wisdom. And she really stepped into that role with Mother Mary, her sister or stepsister. And we don't know a lot about her. I do in the book provide the name, her birth name, which you'll have to look in the book to find out what it is. It wasn't Mary. Mary was another name that came upon her later. And I think there's a lot of intuiting that we need to do to understand who this other Mary was, because so little is said about her. So Mother Mary as a stepmother, in that gospel I alluded to earlier, the infancy gospel of James, or more correctly titled The Birth of Mary, we learn that when Mary meets Joseph at the tender age, she's 12, anywhere between 12 and 16, and has the conception of Jesus, Joseph is really more a guardian for her rather than a husband or a conjugal, relationship. And it seems you can piece together from that gospel and some others that these children that are named in the canonical Bible ambiguously as Jesus' siblings were really Joseph's children by a marriage prior to him meeting Mary and being assigned her guardianship. And that, my intuition tells us, is how things remained, that Mother Mary never did have children with Joseph, but she was the caretaker of his children when she first came to their household, prior to the conception of Jesus, and during that whole time. And afterward, a number of them, again, like Mary's sister, came to be part of this spiritual retinue with her, with Jesus, with Mary Magdalene. Those are details that I give in the book, as well as how Mary was regarded by these children of Joseph.
You have an entire chapter devoted to how Mother Mary made her passage out of this world, achieving the coveted rainbow body that so many seek, and transitioning from human being to full-fledged goddess. Please tell us a little more about that.
That is a critical and important part of her life, and it is the ritual by which she completed all of her earth walks. So I may have a full chapter devoted to it, but it turns out there were actually 6 books written about this. And so the manuscripts that we have that exist say that, and the manuscripts that describe this passage out of her body are called the 6 books manuscripts, right? So the translation, the version of it that I use is fascinating, because when you look at it with the angle that, I could be looking at a description of a high lama who's crossing out of his body, then it gets really interesting. When you put aside, oh gosh, this must be Catholic nonsense, and you look at all the symbols and what's actually being described, yes, Mother Mary had a very high holy ritual to assist her in her soul leaving her body. The way that it is described that various of these very high level monks do, and they go what's called rainbow body, where after they leave their body, which is consciously done, there's a great light, sometimes rainbows that appear over the body or over the house where the body is. And the body essentially disappears, all but fingernails and hair, or the only thing that remains are fingernails and hair. And wouldn't you know it, in one of the suppressed gospels about Mother Mary, or one of her suppressed biographies, we hear something very similar. And so you're going to have to read the book to find out all those details, but I guarantee you that it is compelling. And it's also instructive for those of us who are talking about ascension these days. I don't know if your listeners are attuned to that, but a lot of people in the spiritual community talk about ascension. And so what is ascension? What does it mean? Well, it seems from these descriptions that Mother Mary achieved the ultimate human goal, which is to translate themselves from human level to divine level at the end of your earth walk. That's what she did.
How is Mother Mary connected to the star realms, particularly as you and others are now discussing the Pleiades?
Mm-hmm. This has been one of the most fun aspects of this work for me, because it's a more recent, and not so much discovery I've made, but area that I'm exploring regarding Mother Mary. And for this, I've been greatly inspired by the work of William Henry, who he and I seem to work in tandem, inspiring each other's understandings. And I've helped him, by his description, understand much more about Mother Mary's virgin birth capacities. And he's helped me understand much more about her connection with these stars known as the Pleiades that I've studied about for years. I've written about them. I've taught about them. I write about them in my first book, The Cult of Divine Birth in Ancient Greece, indicating that there are 7 women named as being from the Pleiades who are the genetic mothers of most of humanity, according to the ancient Greeks and many other traditions around the world. I mean, that is remarkable. Their symbol is the dove. They are, 7 stars, et cetera, et cetera. So when I started exploring Mother Mary, there are references to her being connected with the dove and eating like from the hands of a dove, or eating like the dove, things like that. And I realized, oh my goodness, this is connecting her with the Pleiades, who were known as the doves. Pleiades and Pleiades and doves were the same word in ancient Greece. So this is talking about the fact that Mother Mary is not owned by any religion. She's not owned by any tradition. She's not even owned by any planet. She is a roving universal force who is, of course, connected with any area that's been in association with humanity, such as the Pleiades, who were known as 7 virgin mothers of humanity, right? They were able to give virgin birth. Mother Mary gave virgin birth. They are all connected with the dove. So one of the most remarkable things I received in one of my own medicine ceremonies when I looked at this is that, well, we have those 7 sisters, those 7 dove mothers of humanity, whose DNA, according to the ancients and many indigenous peoples, runs through all human cells. They were the 7 dove mothers, and Mother Mary is the 8th dove mother. She's the one who brought in Jesus to the planet, but she's in the lineage and the tradition of the Pleiades. So it turns everything on its head, right? Because we think, oh, this sacrosanct story in this implacable religion that's unchangeable and is fully connected with all of this dogma. And once we start loosening up and really seeing these kinds of connections, we realize, my gosh, Mother Mary is part of this star network of women, of female beings who have gone certainly all over the earth plane and probably beyond in many dimensions. And that's when this Mary story becomes really interesting. It starts breaking completely from its mooring with dogmatic Christian treatment, and it starts allowing us to fly and soar with her in completely new ways.
Is Mother Mary still a living presence as you see it, and how may she be our personal healer today?
Yes, I do see her as a living presence. And you know, Victor, as I go along with this, what I realize is that Mother Mary is us. You know, Mother Mary is me. She's certainly any woman who wants to use her as a mirror, as a teacher. So it's not, I mean, she has her own kind of identity, and then again, she doesn't in some kind of strange way. She's all of us. She's holographic. And you can step up to her at whatever level you're ready to do so within yourself. You can activate what's already in you by looking at these accelerated stories of Mother Mary. You come up to that level, right? That's part of the motivation behind my book as well. As we see her at higher and higher levels, we open up more of this understanding about ourselves, our original DNA, if you will, our angelic DNA. So these are some of the more mystical aspects of where I'm going with Mother Mary today. It's not about venerating her and, genuflecting to her and holding her high above me and everyone else. It's raising myself to that level, or more, opening the doors within me that are already there and that are already within everyone, and just using her as that model, that mentor to help us come into oneness with her, which is the divine feminine writ large. So I hope that makes sense to some people listening. It's, again, the more mystical outlying areas of this work.
If the Mother Mary spirit is within each and every one of us, how does this new understanding help us and advance our species and our planet?
I want to address first also something that I think might have been in the previous question as well, because Mother Mary is not just a star seed accelerator. She's a personal planetary human healer. She's a remothering master. She understands, as I believe the whole Christed enterprise understood, that humanity has been shot to heck over centuries and millennia. We've got a lot of trauma that have been instigated through, one thing or another. And along with this spiritual deepening and awakening, we absolutely need the physical healing, the trauma release, the remothering, the refathering, all of that kind of thing. So she and they are available on all of these levels. So that in and of itself, like if we just took Mother Mary as a great healer, we would be really improving our planet. We would be doing the kind of healing, the kind of heart opening that we need. So many problems would be solved and situations would be resolved and so forth. And at the same time, as I've mentioned, we can work with her, play with her on the level of spiritual mentor at increasingly deep levels, to expand our own consciousness, to cultivate our own mystical, magical abilities. Again, as we do that in tandem with the very much needed human healing, we are transforming this planet. And she is available to that. And that's why I feel that this unveiling of who she is as a mirror, is very important for us now, and really could be pivotal for our planet. Not to put, too fine a point on it, or try to just get boastful or anything like that, but just saying, I do feel that this unveiling of Mother Mary is so important right now, and it is timed for the now.
Are there techniques that you offer in the book to bring her in as our spiritual mentor and guide?
Yes, absolutely. At the end of each chapter, I have reflection questions, and I invite people to write in personal journals and also share on the Seven Sisters Mystery School Facebook group, where we have a pinned post where people can share what they're receiving. And at the end of each chapter, I also have a guided meditation that's calibrated to some major theme of the chapter that people can sign up for free on the Seven Sisters Mystery School site. And all of that information is in the book. And then you can go listen. They have music that's playing behind them. And I lead you on a specific journey. There are 8 different themes that you can enjoy in order to feel Mother Mary more strongly, because in these meditations, I call in Mother Mary and sometimes Mary Magdalene, and I am in my inspired state, leading the participant through that experience. And I feel that a lot of energies and codes are awakened within the person on the levels of healing and on the levels of spiritual development through those.
Marguerite, what would you like readers to take away from The Secret Life of Mother Mary?
That Mother Mary is available if you're curious at whatever level you're interested in exploring her as a teacher, as a healer, as an accelerator. She's one of many female beings and male beings and masters and roots to this kind of learning. But she's a very good one because so many of us worldwide have been touched in one way or another by Christianity, or are somehow called to it on our own, even if we didn't grow up with it. And so it's still a very useful resource at its esoteric roots for us to look into how we can accomplish this healing, looking at the goddess that has been in our own backyard, so to speak. And I wish you many blessings in this exploration, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
The wisdom of our guest, Marguerite Rigoglioso, her new book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. Marguerite, one more time, please tell our listeners where they can get all of your books and find out more about you and your wonderful work.
Oh, thank you. Yes, any of my 4 books can be found on Amazon.com, as well as probably Barnes & Noble, Simon & Schuster. These most recent books can also be gotten directly through Inner Traditions, my wonderful publisher, wherever books are sold. And of course, you can always ask your local bookstore to bring it in and carry them. That would be wonderful. And you can find out more about how my work at Seven Sisters Mystery School can serve you, including how to enroll in the Mary and Magdalene Priestess training that starts in September 2024 at sevensistersmysteryschool.com. And the 7 is written out SEVEN. Get on our newsletter, sign up for some of the free things, and allow yourself to stay in touch and be informed of what we're doing.
Marguerite, thank you so much for joining us again and sharing this wonderful wisdom that our world desperately needs today. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Victor. And I thank you for having me and for the amazing work that you're doing through these conversations.
Thank you, Marguerite. And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Fuhrman. Have a wonderful week.